Le Fringe, pour moi, c'est... Oh my God!
Le Fringe, pour moi, c'est un espace de liberté.
Le Fringe, pour moi, c'est... Oh my God!
Le Fringe, pour moi, c'est un espace de liberté totale.
Like it or not, it's the beer tent.
C'est un grand melting pot.
C'est un grand carnaval artistique.
Fringe is a wonderful moment of liberation.
You can explore, you can try, you can fail, you can be challenged, and it's all okay.
C'est le cœur de Montréal. C'est le cœur. The Fringe, c'est le cœur.
An adventure, an excitement, and the end, exhaustion.
Un espace de potentialité.
Festif, c'est excessif, c'est too much, puis c'est vraiment un gros party.
La diversité, la créativité, l'audace, la jeunesse et le party!
le Fringe, c'est un festival essentiel. Bon, c'est tout.
Hello, welcome, bienvenue. My goodness, it's so amazing to be here right now. Those kazoos are incredible and the words were great. I just recognized a ton of voices. I'm picking them out every time I see that clip. Bienvenue tout le monde. Welcome, welcome. I'm Amy Blackmore. I'm the executive and artistic director of Mainline Theatre and the Saint-Ambroise Montreal Fringe Festival. I'm actually at Mainline right now, which is really thrilling, and we're looking forward to welcoming audiences back to this space for the Fringe next week for the 30th anniversary of the Saint-Ambroise Montreal Fringe Festival. I'm just so excited to be here today. We have an amazing panel ahead for you. We have an incredible group of artists, and it occurred to me while I was speaking to them before going live that this is like the largest group of artists I've got to hang out with in a very long time. So I'm really thrilled and excited to speak with them all. But first, I just want to say a real thank you to the Quebec Drama Federation, who is sponsoring this series for us. We really appreciate that. So thank you, QDF. And thank you to you for tuning in. Also, thank you to the folks who are going to tune in and listen to us a little later. You might actually be in the future right now listening to us on Fringe TV or on our YouTube channel. So I want to give like a shout out to all of you. And if you haven't checked out our Fringe TV channel yet, I invite you to. There's some really cool online content on there. But enough about me. We're actually going to get some thank yous out of the way right away because it's the first opportunity this festival where I get to thank some of these folks. So we're just going to go for it. And then we're going to get to our incredible group of artists. So again, thank you so much to QDF. I want to thank Canadian Heritage, the Conseil des Arts et Lettres du Québec, Conseil des Arts de Montréal, la Ville de Montréal, the Quartier des Spectacles, Monument National, La Chapelle, Petit Campus, the Kitchener-Waterloo Community Foundation, the Cole Foundation, Arts Unite, Elan, of course, Saint-Ambroise. I have my macadam because it is a 5-6 that we're doing. And a special shout out and thank you to the Quebec Secretariat for Relations with English-speaking Quebecers. Honestly, like all the support this year from our funders, our donors, it really means a lot to me personally and to our whole Fringe community of artists. I think that we can all just recognize that organizing an event right now is like, wow, it's unreal, it's everything. I don't even have a word for it. But making art right now is definitely challenging, exciting, exhilarating, overwhelming, all the things. We're going to talk to our artists about it because we want to know what it's like to be creating art right now. So let's do it. We're not going to pretend that we're not using StreamYard because here we are. Matthias, our awesome stage manager, can you start like plunking our folks in? Who do we have? Oh, hello, Gabe. Welcome.
Hi, Amy.
Michelle, welcome.
Hello.
Quincy.
Hey, Amy.
Rahul. Julie and Helen Smart. Helen, you got a last name out of me, so there you go. Goes well together. We're going to have some fun. We're going to chit chat. And I want to let you know, if you're watching and listening, you can post a comment and I could share it like, oh, look, Cat Preston. Cat. Woohoo. That's a great comment. You could also choose to say something like, oh, look, it's the QDF. Here we go. Very excited to hear some awesome artists speak. So if you have questions, things, comments you want to say, please post them in our comment area and I'll be sure to share them with the gang. But first of all, welcome. I'd love to just do a little like tour de rond and hear maybe everyone, if you can just introduce yourself to the group, say a little bit about who you are, and we'll go about one by one. How about Gabe? You start.
Sure. Thanks, Amy. Nice to be with you all here. My name is Gabe Maharjan, and if you don't know me, I feel like I know a lot of people. I love this community. I'm just, I don't know how to introduce myself anymore. I feel like I just do things with people, people in this room sometimes too. I work as an artist, as a performer and a playwright, anything that I can get my hands on, really. And I also work, I volunteer doing governance and advocacy work as well. And I run a collective that I co-founded called Big T Collective. Our focus is just presenting trans narratives, gender nonconforming and two-spirit stories. And I just, make stories happen.
Thank you. Thanks for being here, Gabe. How about Michelle? Michelle, you also, you're an artist, but you also have a show this year in the Fringe. But if you could go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, it's really great to see everyone, both in the screen and beyond. My name is Michelle. I am a director, I'm a stage manager, and as of very recently, I am a producer and a performer in the Montreal Fringe. So apparently I'm someone who likes to push themselves and try new things. I love to create. I love to work in teams, kind of like Gabe. I'll do whatever I can get my hands on. And I've been working in Montreal for the past 9 years, and it's been just freaking incredible.
Great, thank you so much. We're gonna do it like a clock. Quincy.
Awesome, thank you, Amy. Hi, everybody. I am Quincy Armour, and among other things, I am the artistic director over at Black Theatre Workshop, and I'm also an associate artist at the National Theatre School. But right now, I'm just thrilled to be in this room with some artists who I haven't seen in a very long time, and it's reminding me that in addition to being the actor, director, teacher, all that stuff, I was just an audience member and a theater lover first and foremost, and so that's who I'm feeling the most as today. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much. Rahul.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm happy to be here. I'm Rahul Gandhi. I know a lot of you, most likely. I'm an actor, director, producer, creator for theater, film, TV, and I'm also the director of operations at the Quebec Drama Federation. So wearing a lot of hats all the time, and it's really wonderful.
Thank you. And what about Helen?
Hi, so I'm Helen Samard, and I'm a choreographer, I'm a dance dramaturg, rehearsal director, working here in Montreal, Jojage. I am a dog owner and walker. I am a chronic and compulsive imaginer and dreamer. I am a very excited person to be with all these lovely human beings, and I am definitely a Fringe super fan.
Love it. Fringe super fan for life. Julie.
My name is Julie Tamiko Manning, and I am an actor and theater creator, independent producer, co-artistic director of Tashmi Productions, and Fringe lover for 30 years. And hearing all of you speak about being an audience member, actually I'm feeling quite emotional. Because and seeing all of those photos of the Fringe and just remembering what it was like to sit packed in a really sweaty, stinky venue and watching something so beautiful unfold in front of me with all of my friends and community, I miss that. And that's who I am.
I'm incredibly already moved by everything that has already been said. I think it's going to be an emotional Fringe. You know, I've been thinking about, myself walking back into a space and seeing a show, and I think I'm ready to do it. I haven't done it yet. The Fringe will be my first time, and I think we realize that for a lot of the Fringe audience, it'll be their first time as well. So, it's kind of comforting to know we'll all be doing it together. Thank you all again for being here today. So, we did this talk last year, as I said. Some of you were present for that. Raise your hand if you were on the panel last year. I'm just curious, just to kind of, there we go. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So awesome. And we have some newbies here as well. I think just right away, I want to just address that a lot has happened in a year. And, Rahul, I was thinking about what you had said about wearing all the hats, and I was listening to all of you share what you do with your time as an artist and art appreciator. And I guess my first question I just want to throw out is, what have you been doing this year? What's changed? What are you spending more time on, less time on? What's going on?
Like popcorn style, any of us should just...
Oh, yeah, please.
Okay.
But I think you volunteered.
Yeah, I think I just volunteered myself. Yeah, just because of the silences. Yeah, so the year was, you know, it was back when everything got canceled. It was really hard for a bit, and I, for myself, and I know some of my friends, peers in the community, took it really easy for a bit. But then, you know, maybe around last summer, leading into last fall, there's this real big urge of like, what is this thing that I'm missing in my life that I've had for so long and not taken for granted, but just it's been there. And that is like, as an artist, that's creating, that's acting, that's producing, that's directing, all of these things. And so in the past year, for me at least, I've sort of like laid low for a while, but definitely this year, this 2021, like I've been busy. I've been working with so many ideas. I've been working towards so many projects that have been like, 2022, let's do it. And yeah, just slowly building that back up and slowly getting in touch with so many people that I was in touch with consistently in 2019 and 2020. And yeah, we're really, really trying to forget the confinement and look towards the future.
You know, some folks say that they've created way more in the past year than ever before, and other folks have slowed down perhaps and done a little less. You know, I'm curious if there's anyone here who is like really ramped up and like, I've been working on all the things.
I've been,
Helen.
It's probably been the busiest year of my career. I've been working in person since last August and rehearsing. I've worked on 2 live streams. I've worked on 2 films. I've done a lot of creation projects that no one will probably get to see for another 2 years. So it's strange how the work is there. It's the sharing of the work that's been difficult to do. And so it's really made me think a lot about the way that our system is set up, where sometimes we're working for 2 or 3 years on a project and then we share it with an audience. But what happens when you can't share it with an audience? What does that mean? Does it mean the work doesn't exist? Does it mean the work doesn't have value? I'm not ready to say it has no value yet because it's my career. I'm not ready to change careers yet. And so I've been really trying to find value in the work without that moment of sharing, and also finding alternative ways of sharing. You know, if we can't do a show, can we do a film? Can we do web content? Can we do a book of poetry? Can we do a series of drawings inspired by the process? Can it be a photography project? And so just trying to think about what it means, or even if I'm going to be like really weird and esoteric, like, is an audience member's imagination of the work they don't get to see enough? Do they have to see the work, or is dreaming together the important part in the arts? And I think that dreaming together is what inspired me to be an artist, and is what's always made art important to me. And so even if someone doesn't get to see my show, but somehow it becomes part of their imagination and lets them see the world differently, I still feel like I've done my work.
Wow, thank you for saying that. I'm connecting with it. I'm wondering, Gabe, for you, you know, have you been working? Have you been in studio? What's your life been like?
Yeah, it's a weird year to reflect on, of course, but it's also been a very busy year. I don't know if it's been my busiest, but I've been an emerger. I feel like every year's gotten busier in some ways, and so this could be the busiest year so far for me. But it's been interesting because, yeah, what Helen was talking about, this idea of like what is the work that we value, and what is the work that's necessary to get to the place of sharing. I've definitely been in a lot more development. Scripts that are going up soon, hopefully. We were talking before we went live, the idea of like dates now starting to get set for things. And so the past month has started to feel like that a lot more, of things solidifying for that sharing time. But otherwise, it's been a mix of doing voice work and some film work, and also live streaming things. Like that was when we were doing this thing last year, the panel, I was just about to present a show we did it on June 30th with the ECU, and that was like, honestly, that saved me for the first few months of the pandemic because I was so focused on that and had no idea how we were going to make the show happen, but we did it. And it was only after June when I was like, okay, wow, now I feel the fact that the world has fallen because I was so fixated on this one project. So I can see how work, for me, at least the way I work, like having work keeps me sane in some ways. It keeps me going. And it's helped me a lot through the pandemic to not always be stuck in this place of like, what is the world? What's the point? You know, that really the big questions. I like to channel the questions in the work instead. It's a way to handle it, at least. Yeah, that's been pretty much it.
Right on. And Julie, what about you? Like, what are you up to these days?
Well, at the beginning of the pandemic, I think that I kind of just shut down for a couple of months and really, I grew a garden is what I did. I spent a lot of time just with my vegetables, my tomatoes. And then I started to homeschool my nieces, which I think a lot of people probably know about because I talk about it a lot. But they stayed home from school, and I was like, well, my work is kind of on hiatus right now, so I'm going to dedicate myself to that. And so they've very recently gone back to school, and I am feeling like I'm starting to juggle because I have so many projects that I need to catch up on. It's very exciting to be doing all of these things, but at the same time, there's a lot of anxiety because I think that over this past year, for me, I really want art. I want to say something. Like I've always wanted to say something with my art, but over this last year, I kind of am like, why do something if it doesning matter? Like if it's not saying something, it doesn't matter, and I don't want to do it. So there's kind of like that struggle of that anxiety of getting the thing, getting that dream, Helen, that you're talking about, getting it out. But that's a really, I don't know. I think Helen has a really interesting idea. Like what if we can't share it in the way that we're traditionally used to sharing it? That's a really interesting way of looking at it, I think. So anyway, there's a lot of anxiety and also excitement with all of the things that are happening. It feels like a dam just sort of like opening up and
I love that image. Totally. And Quincy, like I see you like nodding your head to what Julie's saying. And, you know, I've been thinking a lot about you and folks that are running, you know, companies in town. And like, I know for myself, I'm kind of at the end of wanting to write grants and apply to subsidies. Like I'm feeling the burn from that. And I'm kind of curious, you know, like, how is it for you? How are you planning right now? What's changed?
So much has changed, and it's been a really interesting, difficult time, you know, for an AD who hasn't been producing live theater for a year and change. I have never been busier. It's absolutely insane, and it's almost frustrating to be doing so much, what feels like all the time, and to not actually have something that you can like put out there and be like, this is what we've been doing, you know. And it's, yeah, I think that the whole year, so much went on. Let's be real. My mental health took a beating at many points over the course of the year. And you know, it's you're learning just how to navigate through that. And then on top of that, there's the pressure of running an organization. Just like the Fringe, it was a big anniversary year for us at BTW too, 50 years, and then not really being able to celebrate it in the way that we really wanted to. But balance that with like, you know, we're co-curating at the NAC, which is a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so there's lots in the works. There's lots coming in the pipeline, including a production of Pipeline in the pipeline. But that's really exciting. It's super exciting, but it's also, this is the first time it's happening, and it's a lot. It's so much. And I don't think even the team at the NAC or us at BTW really understood exactly what this new initiative was going to be. And so it's been quite an interesting time. All this to say, though, there's a lot of excitement coming up. We've, like Gabe was saying, there's been a lot of development. We have several projects in development, and in the next, little bit, some this year, and then the years coming, we'll be able to finally start sharing those. And I think that's going to feel really good. It's going to be really great to start putting things out there and be like, this is what we've been doing, everybody. So, but yeah, it's been hills and valleys all the way.
Totally. And, I think that there is a collective excitement. People are excited about what's coming up. People are tired. Like I was talking to someone the other day and they were saying, like, I need an intermission from the intermission. Like we need some extra time, but we also want to run into it because there's stuff that we miss. So it's this weird balance I think we're living through. Michelle, you just said earlier that, you're suddenly doing your Fringe show. Because we did do the lottery for the Fringe in April this year. It's a world record of shortest lottery to Fringe. So congratulations for participating.
Thank you.
I'm curious, what made you decide to suddenly apply and go for it?
It's a great question. Why the heck not? I was in desperate need of a project. I'm hearing wonderful things across the panel about people that have continued in one way or another to stay creative. And it was really, really hard for me to stay creative. I had one project. I had a bunch of applications. I threw out a bunch of job applications, a bunch of festival applications, just kind of take me, use me, let's do something. But I had a lot of trouble motivating myself. And I love the Fringe so much, and I trust the Fringe so much. I trust the Fringe to be a place where you can try stuff and you can fail, and a place where it doesn't have to be polished. I remember shows that were presented as workshops or shows that had scripts on stage. And I thought, if I get in, I think a part of me was hoping I didn't get in because that would be a cop-out and I could just keep not doing stuff. But a part of me really did want to get in and push myself and try and, not just do a scene, not just write a monologue, but do a show that I'd be able to share with people. I mean, what's a better incentive as an artist as this opportunity to share with people and to do it again in this environment that I love so much and that I trust so much. So it was a why not, and we'll see what happens, truly in the spirit of experimentation and discovery. And working with my team now, it's something much bigger than I could have imagined, and it's a little scary, but it's still really exciting, and I'm really glad I did it, even though it was kind of a silly choice, I guess, but it was the good kind of silly.
We'll have to circle back a month from now to see, and watch this together and see your reaction to what you're saying. I'm very curious.
Can I just say, Michelle, I love what you're saying about why would it have to be perfect? You're making a show at the end of the world. We are in a giant fire, and there's a volcano and there's Godzilla. It is bad right now. So can we be happy with people doing amazing, incredible, miraculous things that aren't perfect, but that the important part is that you're putting yourself out there and you have something to say? I think that's so commendable. And I think more people we should continue with that after this. Why do shows have to be perfect before they can be seen? Can't they be messy and difficult like we are and like what we've just lived through?
Yeah, I was thinking about the relationship to marketing and to getting an audience in. And I'm like, come see the show. Or don't, if you don't feel safe, if you don't feel ready, come see the show. I want to share it with you. It's about some pretty intense mental health stuff. Take care of yourself if you don't want to, please come see the show, but also limited capacity, limited spoons, limited ability to do things, come see what you can, and that's got to be okay.
I think that also Someone had asked a question about what is the Fringe to you, and I was thinking that the Fringe to me is a celebration of failure in the best sense of the word failure. It's something that I am constantly striving for, is to fail and to be okay and to really embrace that. And I think that the thing about the Fringe is that it is this place where we celebrate those things. We celebrate the stepping into the unknown, and it could be, it could be an absolute failure, but I think that the nature of the Fringe, it just allows, and I think it allows us to sort of take all of the steps after that and yeah.
It's there's no fear. Like a Fringe, you will be held, you will be caught, you will be supported, you will be uplifted. Like I think that's the beauty of the Fringe Festival, is that it's you can feel at ease and comfortable to try new things, take a risk, fail if you're going to fail, succeed if you're going to succeed. It's literally all good, no matter what. I'm just somebody said we're going to get emotional. Like I am going to get emotional. I'm so excited. I'm very excited for what's about to happen in our city and in our community.
It's making me think back to the last in-person Fringe, 2019. And it was the first year in 2 consecutive years before that I'd been in Fringe shows, but it was the first time that I was approaching the Fringe not being in a show. I was on a mainline jury that year, and I don't remember how many shows I saw. I think it was like nearing like 25, 30, somewhere around there, all within the span of like 2 weeks, of course. And I don't remember everything I saw, that's for sure, but I remember so many, like just the breadth of all the different things that I encountered, and that idea, like there were things that like might have been considered failures, if that's how you're approaching it, but because it's the Fringe, it's not. It's a place to experiment. It's a place to just do it, throw it out there. I love the fact that you went from April to now, like for your jury, for the draw, because that's really like, that's Fringe, is you just do it. And I miss watching it. What you were saying, Quincy and Julie, about being the theater viewer, coming to these stories as the first and foremost part of your role. I miss that. It was such a great 2 weeks.
I want to share some comments that are being said out here. Holly, hi Holly Greco. I've tested myself and allowed failures as an artist and administrator at the Fringe, and I've always been surrounded by love at the end of the day. So grateful. Oh, Holly, well said. And we have some other great comments here. Just Tuki Capuche, I'm assuming it's the Finn from Tuki Capuche tuning in. Oh, it's not working. Oh, there we go. She just really loved the dreaming and the gardening. Sounds like a good balance. I actually wrote down here when you were talking about gardening, Julie, gardening and cultivating and our relationship to the content and the work. And we're kind of talking a little bit about being audience members and our relationship with the audience today, a little more than I expected. And I think it's really interesting. I think maybe we're craving audience. And I'm curious, how has your relationship with audience changed? Do you feel like the audience is absent right now? What's happening? It's a tough one.
I was talking to my neighbor who runs a comic book festival every year, and they had to go online last year, and he said that everybody attended, like it was like huge attendance, and then this past year he said no one attended, and he was just saying that it's beautiful outside. People are so tired of watching Zooms and StreamYards and live streaming, and I think that people just want to go and see live things. And yeah, I think that I'm really missing that. I'm really missing sitting in an audience, and I'm missing having an audience as well. I think people are so ready for that.
I found in just like in the digital things that I've done in the past year as a performer, especially, I've realized that, at least just for myself, it still feels like the performance in the same way. There's still that like post show buzz where it's like, okay, I'm not sleeping for at least like 3 hours, like calm down, and all of that stuff that, you know, like I'm thinking about that show that I did last June where, like, you know, looking at the YouTube page was like peeking through the curtain right before the show, you know, being like, okay, who's there? And that felt so real. But what I wasn't used to feeling was like, you know, 8 months later, somebody being like, hey, I finally got to that thing that you did and I saw it. And it's just like I know that happens with any other recorded media, but in theater, and that felt like, you know, close to theater to me. I was working with the theater doing that show. And it was just a very interesting thing to be like, oh yeah, I always forget who has seen the work that I've done, or because I don't, in that post-show experience, it's so like, so much is going on. I find it's hard to keep track and to be conscious super after a performance, but online, it just lives there and it's a different relationship to the audience in that way.
Yeah. For myself, I was thinking of like some of my favorite Fringe memories leading up to this panel, and it's impossible to pinpoint them exactly, but definitely I can say I love just when friends show up at a show and you really didn't realize they were going to be there, and you're performing and they're there and they're watching you, and then afterwards, you know, you're happy, you grab a beer and stuff, and it's lovely. And sometimes your venue also is in a way where you just see them walk in, so you know that they're going to come, and then you perform. Just like feeling that community engagement, that audience engagement. And I thought that the digital world wouldn't allow for that. And I wrote a play. It was a sort of personal play, sort of an identity play, though I really don't like that term, called Bad Indian. And I read it at the Catalyst Project, which was part of the Wild Side last January with Centaur. And it was sort of lonely creating it. And I'm sure many of you can attest to like the loneliness in creation in digital times when you're like just, you know, sitting in your living room trying to do something instead of in a theater always. But after the reading, I got texts from so many people being like, hey, that was awesome. And I felt that spark that I feel at the Fringe, or that spark that I feel performing live. And it was inspiring. It was a wonderful moment. Like the sun shined brighter when I left, reading there than it did before. And that's something I'm looking forward to this Fringe. Not that I'm performing, but going to see my friends' shows and being like, yeah, that was awesome. Because, you know, everyone really needs that, I think.
But it's interesting, Raul, because the thing that I've realized over the course of the pandemic was that, you know, coming from a small town, I hadn't seen that much. You know, I'm in contemporary dance, and I had never seen contemporary dance before moving to Montreal. I had seen ballet, I had seen musical theater, I had seen Margie Gillis once. And actually my entire interaction with dance was through television, was through music videos, was through reading about it in books. And it was so important to me. You know, there's performances that marked me for life that I hold dearly in my heart. And, you know, when we were in a medium where it was maybe television or film, the artist never got to know it. So now with streaming, we can engage. The person does know we're present if we're there for the live stream, because they can see your name on the list, you know what I mean? Or you can comment in the chat, or, you know, like Gabe said, you know, maybe you only know 8 months later, but you run into them and they're like, oh my God, I saw your show. And so that togetherness, that magic of togetherness, I think is still very present. And I think especially because we're craving togetherness, when we find those moments to connect, and the Zoom exhaustion is real. We can't be present for everything that's online. And sometimes it is like horrible. And we're like, why are we doing this? But at the same time, sometimes when it clicks, you're still reaching people, they're still reaching you, and we're still creating that moment of exchange. It's just that it feeds us differently. And I wonder if we were always as present when we were together in the same room. Now we have to work really hard to be present towards each other. And we have to be really open through a screen. And so I wonder if we're learning how to be more empathetic as spectators. I know every show I've seen since I've been able to go back to see shows, I have been like, yes, like, and I saw a bad show. It was really bad. And I was like, yes, like, bring me your show. I love it because you made a show, you know? And so I think that I think that there's something to rethink about. Yeah, what is the togetherness that we have to earn right now and really work for and really fight for? That's nourishing to me. But I know what you mean. It's like it's a weird. You feel together, you feel apart, you feel lonely, you feel needy. It's a lot of emotions.
Helen, when I saw your show, and I emailed you afterwards, but I saw Helen's show Papillon, which was it was not the live stream that I saw. It was a recorded one. I think it was in January or February. I probably felt so much closer to you as a creator watching your piece on my kitchen table. And so it's interesting to think about how do we respond differently to a piece that normally would be in the same, we would be in the same room. It filled something in me that I needed, like it was the exact thing that I needed at that moment. And I needed to let you know, and I needed the performers to know and the musicians. And I wanted so badly to just sort of reach through that screen and thank you all profusely, because there is something about sitting in your, sitting alone and watching something, but really, really it hitting the right spot. And I just wanted to make sure that you as creators knew how that affected me as an audience member. It was such a gorgeous show.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And it's the weird thing about it is doing it, we were in a theater by ourselves. Like our show got canceled 3 days before the premiere when the second lockdown happened. So, a thing you've been working on for 3 years now cannot happen except for in this streamed version. And then the recording of the stream becomes the snapshot in time that people interact with. Mm-hmm. But I can feel it. The performers could feel it. When we watch it, we can feel it. You can feel it's really strange. You feel the presence of people there, and you feel the togetherness. And yeah, I have a lot of questions about that.
I find I've had. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Michelle.
No, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, with what Julie was saying about that experience of watching it in your home, like. I'm thinking I've had some intimate audience moments with performers in this community, and they wouldn't even know because they don't know what I'm doing behind my screen. But I've seen so many shows from the bath, and I love that, watching performers from my bath, and that's really intimate, a different kind of connection. But
yeah.
It's also a thing too. Sorry, Michelle, I'm gonna. I have to because it just got moved. The thing of I found myself in certain performances just I don't know, just vocalizing things that I wouldn't in a different way than I would when I'm sitting in the theater. I'd be like, oh no, she effing did it, or whatever it is, right? And so it was just liberating to just whatever response it was going to be didn't have to be confined to that one little seat that you're in, right? It's great.
I was just going to say that I think it was Helen, you had a post encouraging people not to compare the experiences of live theater and stream theater, or live performance and stream performance, I should say. And I think it's valid that we miss live performance. I think it's valid that we miss sharing those moments of synced up heartbeat and laughter and applause. I ran a monologue by my roommate and she laughed and I was like, oh, oh my goodness, there's a give and take here. That's really something. And that's really valid. But there's also the intentionality of someone saying, I'm going to bring you into my home. I'm going to bring you into my space. And I'm going to make time for you in my world, in my TV, in my bath, on my kitchen table. And I'm going to choose to have this experience with you, for you, about you. You would think that going to see a show, getting off your butt and getting on the metro and going to see the show is the work. But sometimes I find it difficult to make space for the online stuff, especially with the Zoom fatigue. So I see the intent, I see the effort, and I see the connection, which is, what we're all looking for.
I feel that very strongly, that idea of virtual performance or stream performance versus live performance. They're different mediums. You know, they're different modes. And so to try and compare them, like you can look at differences and stuff, but they're never going to be the same. They're never trying to be the same. And I've seen shows that take place outdoors, and I'm like, yeah, this show had to take place outdoors. Like it would have never worked inside a theater. And the same thing with streamed performances, where like, yeah, that was meant to be streamed. That's the work that has like hit me the most, is when I'm like, oh, this needs to be this the way it is.
It's interesting. I was just thinking about what are we going to bring into when we start performing live for live audience members, and then we do feel that the one heartbeat, Michelle, that you're talking about, and that energy. What will we have? What will we bring? And what will we not bring from the experience that we've had as creators and audience makers in this last year? So doing stuff online and in this flat sort of 2D world, what are we going to, how is that going to infuse and inform us as in the future? Do you know what I mean? Like with live audience there.
The one thing that I noticed for me was just in life, but also in the performances that I would see. And in the one time that I went to go see Mob at the Centaur back when that came back, was the first time I was back in performance in live theater. It was so great. It was very emotional. But one of the things that I'm just attuned to now so much more than before is a proximity of people. So as soon as people become closer than 6 feet apart, my body just like receives it differently. And I think, you know, and I assume a lot of people's relationship with closeness and intimacy is just different now. And I'm expecting that our audiences are going to bring that reality with them when they come back into our theaters. And so I wonder how much that's going to play into, you know, when we're doing simple things, we're blocking a scene, and like, what does it mean now when people get close or resist, or there's just a lot. I think there's so much more that's going to come into play than we're even probably aware of when we really get back there. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. It makes me think about like the few experiences that I have had in studio. I've you know, you could feel that experience when you are in space with people with masks, and it's like, okay, we're not getting close, and if we are, we have to like really be conscious of it. And I'm hoping that is something too, just in terms of the connection of collaboration that we can take forward in theater as performers, as creators together, that we keep this consciousness of proximity. Because I think we've all been forced to really think about what it means to get close to someone and to have that intimate space. And I know that there's so many issues that come up in our industry because of intimacy and boundaries. And I'm hoping that we can really learn a lot about what it means to set these boundaries and really stick to them, even when we don't need to be worrying about a virus that's going around. I think too about like the silver linings are tricky, but I try and focus on them as much as I can. And definitely one for me, just in work-wise with this pandemic, has been the fact that I'm collaborating with people anywhere. You know, like my community of theater has grown in such a different way. And it's not that I don't miss working with people in space, like I miss that for sure. And the Zoom fatigue, like, I don't know, I hope we also take 4-hour days as a lesson and be like, we can work in smaller chunks, you know? On Zoom, you can't do longer, and I don't know why we would in person anyways. But I'm working on a show right now where I'm the dramaturg. It's an audio piece. I'm dramaturging and assistant directing from here in Montreal. Stage managers here. All the performers are in Toronto or Stratford, and then the producer, director, and sound person, they're all in Vancouver. So it's like, but we're all just doing this, and we're going to record next month, and it's happening. And it wouldn't have been able to happen without that. So I hope we keep that too.
Totally. I was thinking, Gabe, you know, you're talking about watching a show from your bathtub, and something that I've been thinking a lot about in the last year is because there are certain theaters, certain venues are actually reaching out and saying, how can we go forward after like post pandemic, with everything that has happened, that is coming to light for some people and has always been there for some other people. How do we want to go forward? And one of the things that I keep on coming back to is how people don't feel welcome into the space. So something that the Fringe does, I think people feel like this is their space, this is their theater. So your bathtub is your theater. It's your space. And so you see the piece from a different way. If you don't feel comfortable or welcome into the space in where you're seeing the piece, how does that affect how you're receiving or how you're engaging in that piece of art? And I think that's, I mean, I think that's also something really interesting to look at as we go forward. How do we welcome our audiences and how do we make them feel like this is also their space?
And that's such a great point, Julie, because it's like also what new audiences can we reach by using different formats? You know, that's really been my experience of working on streams, is it's not necessarily the same audience. And, you know, in the contemporary dance scene, there's a lot of people who are committed audience members who hate streaming. And so they're like, streaming's the worst, it's over. And yet on the streams, there's a couple hundred people logging in. And so who are these people who wouldn't dare to go to a theater because it is a historically exclusive space?
Totally.
And it's a space that upholds certain Eurocentric values. And it's a space that has codes that if you don't understand, you can feel like, I don't get it, so I'm stupid, you know? And by working on a new platform and sharing on new platforms, you're opening it up to people who have different codes, different practices, and people who feel permitted to take a bath while they watch a show. Because why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you be allowed to yell, be like, ah, because you're excited? Why do we have all these rules in this very formal space that we have to follow? And so I wonder actually if we've been gaining new audiences and interesting new audiences in performance when these new audiences maybe do finally dare to come into physical spaces. What new codes are they going to bring with them that are going to disrupt the theater system?
Maybe we can put bathtubs, like a seat bathtub.
I think it's also important to mention the accessibility issues in place. I mean, I love mainline theater. It's up quite a few stairs. And I've had family come in from Toronto to come see my work, but I've never had my sister who uses a wheelchair. And now because streaming has become more prevalent, I'm filming my Fringe show and I'll be able to show her some version, whereas we used to not think about these things. And it just opens the door to new audiences and audiences who have previously been left behind.
I want to jump back in. I'm back. Hello. Sorry.
Welcome.
Amy.
The mainline ghost kicked me off, of course, as it likes to do. Sorry about that. This conversation is so thrilling. I want to read some comments actually that are being said. We have Delphine from Tuki Capuche. The meaning of a safe space is something we need to address in all its form. And then Rebecca Durocher, our production manager, actually, it's definitely been great to add the online medium to our repertoire because we've been able to expand our artistic circles to collaborators all over the world, but also it's been amazing for audience outreach. It's been really great to have the ability to see shows from across the country and from around the world from my home, and also to share with a larger audience and receive feedback on our work and practices from more than just the Montreal community. I think they're really great points. And there's actually one more that I'm compelled to read it by Holly. And gesting work from home or wherever we want lets us expand our idea as audience behavior. We get to live outside the formality of colonial theater norms. Let's bring that to the room going forward. I wholeheartedly agree. You know, I'm ready to flip the table. Let's get rid of all the venues. No, we don't want to maybe that's not what I mean, but you know, like how can we move forward differently and think of it? Kat, it's funny to think of how if we look back, despite this feeling of loneliness, there's been so many moments of connection and so many moments of making the effort to show up for each other, for the community and for the work. It's really quite touching. Oh, so many great comments. We are going to wrap it up because we are at the end of our talk, but I was curious, does anyone have any last words that you wanted to say, something you were like, oh, I wish I could share this right now? Now is your time.
I think we exhausted everything, Amy.
Went by fast.
I'm going to throw one thing in there, only because you mentioned earlier, Amy, that this is 30th Fringe. It's a big celebration year. And you know, at one point I was hoping we would have all been able to get together and have this huge theater party, because Fringe turned 30 and Geordie turned 40 and BTW turned 50. And it's just like, so maybe when it seems safe and people are going, or maybe during the Fringe, I don't know, let's all just come together in some way and celebrate us and celebrate what we all love and do, because this one is ready for a party. That's all I'm gonna say. And congratulations to Mainline Theater and Fringe on 30 freaking awesome years.
In true Fringe style, I'm just going to pitch my show and say, come see Spiral at Petit Campus, June 11th through 19th. Tickets are on sale.
That's amazing. Thank you, Michelle. And it is shameless self-promotion is key at the Fringe. You got to take advantage and do it and be selfless about it. I want to thank you all again for being here today. Thank you for listening on YouTube, Fringe TV, Facebook, or in the future. And just again, thank you, Gabe, Michelle, Quincy, Rahul, Julie, and Helen Samard for being here. Thank you to our team backstage, Matthias and Kenny, and then Rebecca and the whole gang, Sarah, Kat, Corey, Sehar, and I think I got everyone there. It's such a small team this year, and they're just working real hard. We will have more conversations that are going to take place this week, and I want to tell you what they are before we go. Tomorrow, we have this panel again, mais en français. Donc, demain, on va parler de Parlons de l'art. Parlons de créer l'art, là, maintenant, avec plusieurs artistes du Fringe, mais aussi qui viennent un peu de tout au travers le Québec. Next week, on Monday, we're going to have Let's Talk About Green Art Making. As most of you probably know, I'm very passionate about this topic and cannot wait to have a conversation with artists and theater producers from across the country on that. On Tuesday, we have Parlons de métier de conciliation de travail-vie in French, which will be really interesting. And then we close it all off on Wednesday with this like bilingual mishmash one where we're just going to talk about the future of art dissemination. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. Join us. Thank you again. And we'll see you soon. Happy Fringe.
Well, Fringe.